Hi, James here. In this tutorial we're going to look at how to make a really robust eye rig. We're going to be able to move the pupil around without it going outside. We're going to use morphing on the eyelid. I'm only going to do the left eye because the process is exactly the same on the right eye, and so you'll just have to copy it over and repeat the process on the right eye. This is going to be done in Animate Pro. I am going to extensively use the network view. However, you will be able to follow the tutorial in Animate, and I'll flick over to Standard Animate and show you how you can achieve some of the same things in the Standard Animate, but it is nowhere near as elegant as it is in the Animate Pro. So with that network view, you're going to want, I just flicked across into it, and you're going to want to clean this up a little bit. If you go up here and enable your scripting tools, on some of the default scripting tools will be ordering the network. I'm just going to order it down with the default settings. And as you can see, it's nicely put all of our drawings into something that's a lot easier to look at. So I'm just going to move a couple of these things around. So first of all, we're going to need a few more layers for our eyes because I'm going to break it up into a series of layers. We're going to have an eye background. This will be like the eye white and the outline. We'll obviously have the pupil on a separate layer, and this would also include the iris if you had an iris around it. And I'm also going to need an upper eyelid. I may or may not do the lower eyelid, but again the process will be exactly the same as it is for the upper and the lower. I'll just call this upper eyelid. The reason I'm going to do the upper and lower on separate layers is it's much easier to morph that way. I'm going to use morphing to open and shut the eyes. You could just use drawing substitutions, but I thought it was a really good chance to show you how you could use morphing in such a simple way. I'm also going to take this black line out because I think it'll look better for this character to not always have the entire outline, but I'll also show you how to keep that entire outline. So I'm going to grab all the eye layers, unlock everything else with Control Shift Alt O. If you're using Mac, just go and find your preferences to find where Lock All Others is. So I'm going to go to the eyes, and I'm going to grab these things, which is the eye in the background. Also I've left the eyelid there. And I'm going to cut them, which is create drawing from selection, and I'm going to cut it from the original artwork, and I'm going to put it onto the eye back layer. So let's hide these other layers, because you're going to need to now clean this up a little bit. So I'm just going to grab this white, grab the paint bucket, let's go to our palette that we were using, and there's our eye background. So let's lock this layer down, go back to our eyes. I just had to move this layer up so that I could see it. So next, we're going to select the pupil. Now I'm going to try and take the outside off. We don't need this anymore. If I don't like the size of this, I could just increase it a tiny bit. It'll make it much easier to work with later. So I'm now going to cut this from the drawing and put it onto our pupil layer. You'll notice that I only get the choices of the ones that aren't locked when I'm cutting it from the original artwork, which is a really nice feature. So now I'm going to grab this. I don't need this yellow anymore, so I'm just going to cut this as well. We're not actually going to use that eyelid, but just for sense of completeness, I'm going to move it onto the upper eyelid. And so now you'll see we've taken our whole left eye. So now we've done this, we're going to want to go to our network view, and I think I'm actually going to create another composite. The reason for doing this is we're going to start to get a lot of things in our main composite, and it'll make it nice and easy for us if we've got a separate one. So here's our composite module. I'm going to call this composite head. And you're going to see that I'm basically just going to take all of the head elements and put them into this. So here's our new ones that we've just added. Where's our body? Actually, I'm going to go back to the camera view, and we're going to drag the body up. And we're going to take all these layers that are involved with our head. So our mouth shapes, our eyes, and we're going to make them all a child of the body. I might actually change this name to head. It's like the head and the body of this character because it doesn't really have a body. So it'll make it easier to understand if we call it the head. Now you're going to see you can't see these elements, and in the next tutorial we'll work on fixing this.